Good morning, Metalheads Internet. Welcome to a new episode of the Metal Meltdown, and today we are revisiting Grandpa Metal from Brian Posehn and dissecting and examining and responding to some of the very interesting comments left behind by fanboys rushing to the defense of this irritating, cringeworthy pile of human filth. It's been just about 2 months since my first encounter with Grandpa Metal from Brian Posehn, an annoying compilation of literal potty humor, ill-conceived skits, wasted talent, and a series of boomer metalhead and elitist pandering rants that paints the entire heavy metal scene as hypocritical, close-minded, sexist, and frankly, just plain gross. To say that I am not a fan of this record, to say that it irritated me then and continues to irritate me now, is an understatement. But we're not really here to talk about that. You've already heard me bitch and moan and complain, yada yada yada. I'm more here now to talk about the response I've seen to this album and to my review in the wake of both of their respective releases. Now look, I'm no stranger to controversy on the Metal Meltdown. I'm well aware that there are people out there that are furious upon simply hearing my name based on what I've said about the likes of Vork Returns, Lorna Shore, Rings of Saturn, Five Finger Death Punch, yada yada yada. I am not inherently a very popular figure, and considering how admittedly dramatic I was in that particular album review, I should have expected a particularly nasty response from the Posehn fans. But man, you guys went above and beyond the call of duty. This was wild. We didn't see any violence. There were no threats upon my life, as I've seen with other videos I've done about Lorna Shore and Five Finger Death Punch. But, I wouldn't have been shocked if it had happened, because, some of y'all went nuts. So today, on April Fool's, a day of comedy, our goal is to re-examine this comedy metal record. I am going to be responding to some of the most interesting comments that were left on my initial album review, the ones that at least were not banned or removed for being genuinely offensive or borderline psychotic. No hyperbole, no melodrama, not even a whole lot of alcohol. I always like to have a drink when I talk about really bad albums. Not gonna do that today. Simply responding to your comments as responsibly and clearly as I can. I'm sure, as you can already imagine, this will grow to be more difficult as the comments grow to be more inherently offensive, but we will cross those respective bridges when we get there. So fasten your seatbelts, ladies and gentlemen, because we're in for a bumpy ride. Okay, yeah, we've already broken one rule. I said I wasn't gonna drink, but give me a fucking break. I'm fucking quarantined, for God's sakes. And let's start with this comment from William Waddell. You know what really sucks? Biased reviews. Biased reviews do suck, William, but I don't feel like Grandpa Metal is one of those biased reviews. Sure, more than willing to admit that I do not think dicks and fart jokes are inherently very funny. More than willing to admit that I don't think boomers ranting about the glory days of rock and roll is particularly funny either, but that being said, I feel I still went into this album pretty open-minded and even excited because of the talent that Brian had assembled for Grandpa Metal. I mean, the dude had Scott Ian, Chuck Billy, Gary Holt, Brendan Small, Bumblefoot, Jill Janis, fucking Weird Al. How can you not look at that lineup and at least become a little bit interested? And honestly, I think it would be more biased if I had decided to shut down this record simply based on my previous experiences with Brian Posehn as an artist and a comedian. To simply say Grandpa Metal is bad because previous project was bad and not give it a proper shot. Because the reality is, comedians, just like any other artist and just like people, regular people, change and evolve with time. Take, for instance, Adam Sandler, one of the biggest names in comedy and a comedian that Brian co-starred with in The Wedding Singer earlier in his career. I'm not traditionally a fan of Adam Sandler. I don't like bedtime stories, I don't like Pixels, I don't like The Ridiculous Six, I don't like Murder Mystery, I'm not really even a fan of the aforementioned Wedding Singer. I think for most of his career he's gotten by on simply being able to produce a variety of silly and ridiculous voices, and Sure, maybe there was a period on Saturday Night Live where, contained within these skits, it worked okay, but stretched out over a 90-minute picture, a 2-hour picture, not so much. I bring this up because had I decided to shut out uncut gems based on my prior experiences with Adam Sandler, I would not have discovered one of my new favorite movies. I would not have seen Adam Sandler completely evolve as a comedian, an actor, an artist. I would not have seen him deliver what I feel truly is an Academy Award-worthy performance. Or perhaps more appropriately, since this is a metal channel, let's talk about the famous case of Pantera. Let's talk about how an 80s cock rock band literally transitioned into being one of the 90s heaviest and most innovative metal bands. Something that absolutely would not have happened if people had picked up Cowboys from Hell and said, yeesh, this 80s glam band is still around? Yikes, I don't want nothing to do with this. The point being is that I will approach every single record that comes my way on the Metal Meltdown with the utmost confidence, clarity, and enthusiasm. If you still feel that I'm biased, then I don't know what to tell you, but I really don't feel as if I have been. This next comment comes from Jaco Pasto? I don't know. But he says, how you feel that you spent more than half an hour to rumble about something you don't like. It's nice to have a purpose in life, I guess. Hope you got paid. Nice ad. First off, no one was rumbling for 30 minutes, so I don't know where you got that from. Second, the channel's called The Metal Meltdown. If you're not prepared for a little bit of melting down, I would suggest you go elsewhere. And third, I haven't yet, but I'm hoping I do soon, because toilet paper is kind of expensive nowadays. Side note, if you're hoarding toilet paper, you fucking suck. This next comment comes from Joe White, who says, yet he is still more metal than you, lol. You should consider some face paint or some hair in your face. You say metal, your tantrum says emo. Funny, I don't remember anyone telling me that we had time traveled back to 2008 and we were all suddenly unironically calling things we didn't like or agree with emo out of spite. More importantly, I don't believe that metal is a competition. I know that so many metalheads act as if it is, but I don't feel that it is. And to some extent, I don't think Brian thinks that either, as he notes in the exact same song you allude to how difficult it was for him as a kid, not looking or sounding the part of the typical metalhead, being deemed unworthy to be metal by a bunch of shitty assholes like yourself. So you can go ahead and just take that mentality somewhere else. I'm not even gonna argue this bullshit. Hell's Gate says, at least he has more fans than you. I cringed just skipping through this trow water. Dude, honestly, real talk, man to man, who fucking cares? Like fucking honestly, this is heavy metal. We're not here to talk about popularity. We're not here to talk about who has more or less fans. We're here to talk about heavy fucking metal. If you want to talk about popularity, American Idol is that away. The fact that I even have to explain this to a metalhead, a member of the community that traditionally shuns any kind of mainstream success and popularity, is nothing short of remarkable. Mike Cranston says, lol, he's more metal than you'll ever be, you millennial poser. Gen X is laughing at you. He's metal and rules. And to put it into millennial terms, since all you kids care about is likes and subs, his Loudwire React vid already has 228k views. He was metal before you were born. You kids missed out on the glory of the 80s and early 90s pre-social media metal. So no, it is not the worst metal album of 2020, lol. This video is a fail. You don't get it. You're not worthy, okay boomer. What pray tell am I not getting here, Mike? It's literally dick and fart and shit jokes. What level of intelligence have I somehow skipped in analyzing this humor? And a general note to all boomer metalheads, including Mike here, if you're sitting down lamenting about the glory days of rock and roll, ranting and raving that the younger kids just don't get it and that all modern rock and metal is crap, you have no one to blame but yourselves because you have not allowed rock and metal to expand and progress and change with the times. You are literally so stuck in your worldview that all rock and metal must fit into your personal description of rock and metal that it has brought this genre to a halt. There's no rule whatsoever saying that you can't enjoy Led Zeppelin, AC/DC, Deep Purple, Queen, Iron Maiden, and many more, but you need to understand that if this genre is going to survive, It needs to change. It can't all just be those bands forever and ever. Like, I'm not saying you gotta go out there and buy like the new fucking Suicide Silence album or whatever, but why not check out some great modern rock and metal bands that channel a lot of the bands that you love to lament and rave about, such as Monster Truck, The Glorious Sons, Greta Van Fleet, Stryker, Haunt, Rival Sons, and so many more. And hey, if you don't like it, then you don't like it. That's totally fine, but at least give it a shot, because otherwise this genre is just completely doomed going forward. And with time, even the legends that you refuse to look past will be forgotten because no one's going to want to look at them anymore. Just a thought. That's all. Now, this comment came from a conversation I had with another user, Dim, where he kind of suggested that maybe this album would work in an ironic sense. I could listen to it with friends and get really drunk. And I can kind of see where he's coming from there, but I tried to do that with my friends, and we ended up just talking about how shitty this album was. To which Serious Mind here responded with, "Yeah, but who the fuck are your friends? Why should we care what they think?" Look, obviously there's no rule anywhere that says that you must care about how my friends feel about an album, or for that matter, how I feel about an album, but you're here. You responded. You're chiming in. So I have to assume on some level you already care a little bit. Just throwing that out there. More to the point, the specific friends in question are two people that have contributed to the Metal Meltdown over years. Very talented musicians and songwriters in their own rights. Lucas Zdanovic, for instance, local tech death and metalcore guitarist who's worked with a ton of different projects. The other being Mustafa, a co-host of mine on Intoxicated Gaming and a current bandmate of mine in a jazzy black metal project that we're working on called Honeycomb. We're actually working on demos now and working on songs now despite this whole, quarantine bullshit thing. Neither of them are superstars, but they're smart, they know their shit, they're very open-minded, and I personally think that they are very reliable to talk to about any style of music, let alone grandpa metal specifically. Dylan Sawyer says, "Calm down, poser. You obviously don't understand music, metal, or comedy. I feel really bad for you that you get so worked up about something you clearly don't understand." I love that me not wanting to hear about Brian Posehn's fat, sweaty cock, me not wanting to hear about how much he despises modern music, boils down to me simply being some kind of wimpy poser who just doesn't understand music or comedy. And once again, what, pray tell, is there to understand here, guys? Like, all of you are saying that I'm missing something, but nobody is telling me what I have missed. None of you, okay? Like, somebody tell me what I've missed, because otherwise, again, we're gonna be here all day. Michael Bellini says, "Metalhead with a ponytail, total elitist." Okay, this is starting to get a little bit confusing, guys. Like, seriously, which one is it? Am I a poser, or am I an elitist? Because by definition, I can't be both. And that brings us now to Joe Halen, who, well, let's just read what he has to say. "Apparently someone doesn't know the idea of parody. I'm actually inclined to thank you for this review. It forced me to take a deeper listen to this album and eventually buy it. It's actually pretty funny if you understand comedy whatsoever. Oh, and by the way, dick and fart jokes always kill with an audience. Comedy 101, lesson number 1. There's a lot to dissect here, but let's start with this notion that somehow I don't understand parody and comedy. And with that in mind, I'm going to tell you a very real story about a very real comedy metal band I once performed with called Walking Sex Monster. We weren't very good, not really. I had formed this band during an interesting period in my life where I was in college and I was drinking a lot and I was smoking a lot and I didn't really give a shit about anything. So I just wrote dumb shit. I just wrote a bunch of really dumb, stupid shit, and me and my friends laughed at it, and we decided, let's put it into a band. Let's try and make something out of it. And we wrote a lot of dumb songs. We wrote a song called Carbonic Maceration of the Human Skull, which is about making wine out of people. We wrote a song called Onion Rings of Saturn, which was this tech death jam where we basically ripped off a bunch of shit from Rings of Saturns and talked about a man who was literally trying to eat the galaxy. We made a song called Consistently Shitting Knives for 2 days, which I wrote in a single night based on what someone had told me about what they felt giving birth was like. And we even had this super weird black metal jam called Cindered Pope that would require all of us to randomly switch instruments halfway through the song. And for those of you who think I'm making this up, take a look at these videos. That was 100% real, folks. That was college Robert, drunk and high off of his ass, basically just trying to make edgy, weird, stupid bullshit for the sake of doing so. I'm not going to pretend that we were crazy successful. We weren't. But we did play a bunch of shows here in Toronto. We did release a couple of demos. And we did get a couple encores, believe it or not, from here and there. I'm not exaggerating that. So this idea that I just don't understand comedy, I'm just going to put to bed right away. Because while I don't necessarily think everything I did with Walking Sex Monster is inherently funny, especially nowadays, I do think it at least proves that I understand comedy and comedy metal to an extent. To the extent that I would literally make comedy and comedy metal. So can we just drop this argument? I also bring this up to point out that at no point in Walking Sex Monster's career did we ever make a dick joke or a fart joke. And we didn't do it because no one in the band thought dick jokes and fart jokes were consistently funny. And to prove that this isn't just us in Walking Sex Monster talking out of our own biased assholes, I went ahead and actually asked people on the Metal Meltdown how they felt about dick and fart jokes. In this poll that you will now see on the screen, you'll notice that 40% of the people who voted said that typically no, fart and dick jokes were not consistently funny. And you'll notice that another 40% said that honestly, it depends on the context. You'll also notice that a mere 19% of the vote, leaving a literal 1-point margin of error, said yes, fart jokes and dick jokes are consistently very funny. You put this together and what do you end up with? You end up with 80% of an audience saying that typically speaking, they consistently do not find dick and fart jokes funny. So this idea that you have that they always kill with an audience is at least 80% wrong. If anyone out there is taking comedy classes from Joe Halen, cancel that shit immediately. And I'm also going to include this comment from Pissed Off Dragon. Fart joke always kills. Who does he think he is? Lloyd Kaufman? At least he goes above and beyond the point of absurdity with the juvenile bullshit, no pun intended. If you're gonna write stupid, you gotta have balls. You can't just rip off safe, milquetoast, Amy Schumer, Marvel Comics, or Happy Madison tier normie crap. Mix it. Throw in some Cronenberg body horror. Make it a musical. Make the fart joke minor and rapidly stack it with many other jokes until it crashes into a grand slam in under 7 seconds, like early Simpsons. Anything so it doesn't feel like another recycled piece of garba, I mean prose. Fart jokes are generally written by effortless, half-baked, safer mainstream hacks targeted at audiences with the attention span of a 6-year-old. And that style of humor should be a supplement to a larger, more absurd joke. Pissed Off Dragon hit the nail on the fucking head here, as far as I'm concerned. And to add to that point myself, I will also let you know that I can only think of a couple occasions where I have actually laughed at a fart joke. One of which comes from a Simpsons episode in which Homer becomes obese in order to not go to work, and ends up using his fat body to literally stop a nuclear meltdown. To which Bart responds with, "I can't believe Dad's ass prevented the release of toxic gas." The second of which being the repeated use of a fart joke from Willem Dafoe in the movie The Lighthouse. And in this moment, it's worth noting that the fart joke is used to demonstrate the differences between Willem's character and Robert Pattinson's character, to make Robert immediately feel uncomfortable and disgusted by Willem's character. Dick jokes, however, aren't quite as lucky. I guess there are odd moments where a weirdly adult joke that's been inserted into something can catch me off guard, but I can't really think of anything that's made me like burst out loud laughing per se. If by chance, Joe, you have a dick joke that will make me do this, feel free to share it, I suppose. Why the fuck not? I'm an open-minded fella. So I think that does it as far as the appropriate comments are concerned, or at least appropriate in comparison to the inappropriate comments. With that in mind, let's briefly address some of the inappropriate comments left by some of y'all. Thankfully, this video did stop short of the threats of violence that I saw in the wake of videos I've made regarding Lorna Shore and Five Finger Death Punch, but that being said, there was a disturbing amount of homophobic, sexist, and ableist slurs, a disturbing amount of offensive language, legitimately super offensive. One user in particular had said something really disturbing regarding baby vaginas. I won't say exactly what it was, but I will say to that user, if they are by chance watching, you need fucking help, dude, like ASAP. And with all this in mind, I think now is a good time to reiterate where the Metal Meltdown stands on a lot of these issues. Now is a good time for me to reiterate that the Metal Meltdown, regardless of how you may feel about an issue or an album, will not tolerate homophobia, sexism, ableism, racism, transphobia, xenophobia, general discrimination, and of course, threats of violence. This has nothing to do with me being a libtard, it has nothing to do with me being a snowflake or an SJW. It has to do with safety. It has to do with keeping my subscribers safe, keeping myself safe, keeping everybody safe. And honestly, if that's going to be a problem for you going forward, I think that says way more about you than it does about me or anyone else here. You can puff your chest all you want. I'm not going to cater to your whims, to patronize your anger, to patronize your inability to understand that everybody doesn't agree with you. It's that fucking simple. The Metal Meltdown is open to all and will protect all. It's that goddamn simple. And again, if you don't like that, you can go fuck off somewhere else. Yeah, and that's it, I suppose. I guess I had hoped to end this on a more triumphant note, but fuck it. That's it, I guess. Happy April Fools. Don't be a dick. Wash your hands. Don't hoard toilet paper. And as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day. I'm gonna go to bed.